Hello, everyone. My name is Tammy. I'm with the Center for Interactive Learning and Collaboration, also known as CILC. And I'm excited you're able to join us for our special Community of Learning event today with the International Wolf Center. CILC is able to put a Community of Learning event on every Tuesday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can see the up and coming schedule by going to cilc.org/community. Thanks to our amazing content providers. Today's program is part of a special Wolfpack event that was put on today by the Walzer Foundation. So we want to take a moment to say thank you to the Walzer Foundation for bringing in the International Wolf Center. They're going to be with us next week, Thursday, too, at 1 p.m. Eastern. So please join us for that third event all about wolves. You'll find out more about the International Wolf Center on CILC by clicking on the link in the chat you'll see there. And then also there is a link to their website on the chat. Also, you can go to wolf.org and you can learn more about this amazing organization. I also want to take this moment to remind everyone that we do have an amazing ASL interpreter, Robbie, who is joining us today. Robbie is able to be with us because we have an amazing partnership with the American Society for Deaf Children. I'm going to go ahead and put their website into the chat. Also, visit deafchildren.org and you can learn more about that amazing organization and all that they have to offer to the deaf and hard of hearing community. To activate that ASL interpreter, you're going to go down to the interpretation icon at the bottom of your screen and click on the ASL interpreter option. I'm going to go ahead and show that up on the screen. Click on interpretation, choose American Sign Language, and then Robbie will appear for you to see. At this time, I'm going to hand it on over to our presenter today. Our presenter is Connor. Connor is from the International Wolf Center. We're going to learn all about their program, Wolf Pup 101. Connor, thank you for being with us, and you're more than welcome to take it away.
All right. Thank you so much for having me today. Like we've established already, my name is Connor. I am one of the educators, so kind of like one of the teachers here at the International Wolf Center in northern Minnesota. So for today, we'll be learning plenty of different things about wolf pups, looking at how they grow, where they're found, and some other things relating to their families and overall life. Before we get started with that, I'm going to share my screen with all of you so that we are able to see what the wolves here at the Wolf Center are doing this afternoon. So that should be coming up on your guys' individual screens here very soon. And this is one of the cameras that we have out in our wolf enclosure. So I'm going to zoom in on a couple of the wolves that we can see here. The wolf with his head raised, kind of looking around over on the right side. His name is Kaz. And then the much lighter wolf, he's actually solid white, that is laying down to the left. His name is Grayson. Now, Kaz, he is 2 years old. He turned 2 in April. And then Grayson, he turned 8 years old earlier this month. Now, we also have a couple of others out here. I'm going to zoom out from them and see if we can find a couple of the other wolves that we have out here in this space. I think I might know where at least one more is. And it looks like that is one of them here on the rocks. Thankfully, she has not moved. But she is also sleeping very well, just like the others. Her name is Rika, and with Rika, she is actually 3 years old today. It is Rika's third birthday. And it is very fitting that we are doing this program today because Rika gets featured quite a bit in this program that we will be learning about. There are some videos of her as she was growing up. So it's very fitting that we are learning about wolf pups today on her third birthday. Now there is one more wolf out here. I don't know where he is at, but his name is Blackstone. Blackstone is Kaz's brother, so he also turned 2 years old earlier in April. Now, for the wolves that live here at the International Wolf Center, we call them our ambassadors. They have that title because they are serving as ambassadors to wild wolves. The wolves here have a very important job to teach people about their species. Most of the time with wolves out in the wild, they're naturally afraid of people. They don't like being around us that much. So it can be very hard, excuse me, to see them in their natural habitat. So the wolves here, they offer people a chance to see them a little bit closer, look at some of these features that they have, and show off some of the behaviors that you might be seeing out in the wild. Now, with all of these wolves here, they come to us from other facilities licensed with the USDA. So that is the United States Department of Agriculture. Now, these facilities could be other wolf centers, they could be nature centers or research centers, but all of these wolves here, they start out at places like the International Wolf Center, and then they come to live here when they're about 2 to 3 weeks old. That is so we can socialize them to being around people. Like I mentioned, most wolves are afraid of people, but for wolves in this setting, we want to make sure that they're comfortable being around us, not scared or nervous seeing people all the time, but instead calm and relaxed. Overall, just another part of their day here. Now, there are people that go out in the enclosure with the wolves to take care of them. Again, that goes back to the socialization part. They're comfortable being around those people. And there are also people that come to see them here at the center every single day. So they get plenty of exposure being around people. And as you can see, they're not fazed by it one bit. They are sleeping just like they would be out in the wild. Now, this behavior is pretty normal for this part of the day. We are right in the middle section of the day. So because of that, they're doing a lot of resting. Looks like Grayson is adjusting here a little bit. Now, for the middle part of the day, they would be resting like this to get out of the heat, out of the large swarms of bugs that could be present in the middle of the day. So it gives them a chance to relax, maybe cool down at this point, and then they're more active early mornings and later evenings as a result of that. Now, the space that they have to occupy here at the center, it's about 1.25 acres, so it's about the same size as a football field. So they've got lots of area to roam around in, to play with each other in, and as you can see, plenty of space to sleep in as well. So thankfully, we have gotten some good views of them so far this afternoon. We've only missed out on Blackstone, but he could potentially come out a little bit later so that we can see him. But we have seen Grayson, Kaz, and Rika so far. Now, before we get started with our program, I'll go ahead and explain what you guys can expect for it. So it is our Pup 101 program, offering us a great chance to learn about wolf pups. There will be some pictures, videos, and lots of information included in there. Now, we will have a question and answer session at the end once the program has wrapped up. You guys are more than welcome to throw any questions that you have into most likely the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. That will be a really good place to put those questions. If you put them in the chat as well, I'm sure we can monitor that too. But for a little bit of ease, I think the Q&A button will help us out a lot. And like I said, we'll have that session once the program has wrapped up. Now, also during the question and answer session, I'll pull these cameras back up as well so we can see what the wolves are up to, see if they've changed or moved or done anything else while we've been gone. So now I'll go ahead and pull up our presentation for today. And that should be coming up on your guys' screens here very soon. It looks like it is lagging just a little bit. Some wonderful technology we've got today. So like I said, Pup 101 is what we are learning about. Now, before diving into this, we'll learn a little bit more about the center and about the wolves here. Now, I am here in Ely, Minnesota, which is where this red star is, very close to Canada, but still here in the state of Minnesota. Now, there's a few reasons why people might be coming to our center. They might be coming to see the wolves that live here all year round, or they could be coming to learn more about wolves. We offer lots of programs throughout the day. We answer lots of questions about these animals. So it's a great chance for people to get some more information about this species here. Now, our goal here at the International Wolf Center is to advance the survival of wolf populations by teaching about wolves, their relationship to wildlands, and the human role in their future. So we are doing all of those things by giving out as much scientific information as we can about this animal here. Sometimes there is some information in the world that isn't completely true about this animal. So we want to make sure any info that we provide is going to be backed up by science. There has been research or studies put into learning this information about the wolf. Now, the people that work here at the center, we play a big part in that mission. The wolves here at the center also play a very big part in that mission too. So I'll introduce you a little more to the four that live here today. We'll first start with Grayson. So Grayson, he is the oldest wolf here in this pack. I mentioned that he turned 8 years old earlier this month, and he probably looks a little bit different from the wolf that you might have seen in the wild or that you have in your mind. That is because he is related to wolves up in the Arctic Circle. So he could be called an Arctic wolf, but Arctic wolves are still gray wolves. They just look a little bit different from some others because they live in a slightly different place. Now, with that white fur coat, that would be a great advantage to have up in the Arctic because it allows them to blend in with the ice and snow found almost year round up there. Grayson, he would be considered the dominant male here in this pack. Usually wolf packs are led by a dominant male and dominant female, and I'll even talk a little bit more about that later. But with Grayson, he is the oldest wolf here in the group. He has helped to raise the other three wolves here, and he's very confident in that role. So he's taken on more leadership responsibilities here in the pack. Next up is Rika. She is, like I said, turning 3 years old today. So happy birthday to her. With Rika, she is closer in color to the wolves we might see around here in Minnesota, mainly because there's a lot more woods and forest in this region. That darker brownish gray fur would help her, as well as the wolves around here, to blend in with that forest. Now, she is what we would call the dominant female here in the pack. So because she is the only female wolf we have, she didn't really have to compete for that role, but she is still a very important part here in this pack. She helps to lead this pack alongside Grayson. Then the last two that we've got are Kaz and Blackstone. So these are the two youngest here in the group. They are both 2 years old. They had their birthday back in April. That makes them the youngest wolves here in this pack. Because they're the youngest, they do usually run around, play, wrestle, chase a little bit more than the other two. They are brothers from the same litter, so they have the same parents, they were born on the same day, and because of that, they do look very similar, but there are some ways we can tell them apart. One way is that Blackstone, he is the bigger of the two brothers. He is about 10 to 15 pounds heavier than Kaz is. He is also taller and his body is longer versus Kaz. He is a little bit lighter. His body is shorter as well as his height is shorter. Now, one more thing about them is that Blackstone has more kind of reddish orange color to his fur, and it does appear lighter in the sunlight. Then Kaz has darker tones. He has more grays and blacks in his fur, and it appears a little darker compared to his brother. So that is the introductions for the wolves and the wolf center. Now we'll start talking more about wolf pups. Now to start that off, it's good to mention what their families look like, the family that they are born into. So I've mentioned it a bit already, but most wolf packs are led by a dominant male and dominant female. Now what I haven't mentioned just yet is that those two animals are usually the mom and dad of the rest of the group. These wolf packs are usually the family group. Now, for those two leaders of the pack, the dominant male and female, they would be the parents of most of the other wolves. Now, these wolf packs are usually between 4 and 6 wolves. They can be larger or smaller, depending sometimes on the amount of food they have or the space that they have. But 4 to 6 is the average number for what you might see. Now, with those pups that are born into the group and the ones that live with mom and dad, they're usually born in litters between 4 and 6 pups. So between 4 and 6 are born at one time. Now, for the pups that live with their parents, It could be older pups, maybe 1, 2, or 3 years old, that still live with mom and dad, still learn some things from them, and help to take care of the younger pups. Or it could be those younger pups, the pups that are born into that group every single spring. Now, talking a little bit about where they are born, they are usually born in what we call a den site. So first I'm going to show you some examples of what a good den site would look like, and then I'll tell you some things that the parents are looking for when they choose that den site. So here, this is going to be our first of several videos that we'll be watching for this presentation, but this is going to be a video from Voyageurs National Park, which is here in Minnesota. I'm going to stop the share for just a second. Don't know how Grayson popped back up on here, but I'll go ahead and reshare and get things back to where we started. All right. Like I said, some wonderful technical things that we are dealing with today. All right. So we will hop back on to Grayson for just a second, as well as Kaz, and then we will hop back over to our presentation once again. Here we go. So that should be popping up on your guys' screen here again. But this video here, this is going to be some pups here in northern Minnesota, a place called Voyageurs National Park. So this is actually a couple hours away from the International Wolf Center. Now these pups here, they are in an example of a den site. We can see they've got access to, looks like a deeper space back there in the back of the den. Offers them some shelter, some place to take refuge, get away out of the weather, or maybe get away from some other animals that might be walking closer. Now, the scientists that work here in Voyageurs National Park, they have been researching the wolves that live there for almost 10 years now. So it offers them a great chance to learn more things about the wolves that live here in this space. And one thing they're able to do is go to these den sites. They're able to count the pups that are there. They're able to do exams on the pups to see how healthy they are, see if there's any issues with those pups. And overall, it gives them a great idea of the wolf population in this area. Now you can see these pups here in the video, they probably got a little startled watching the person taking this video of them, but that's exactly what the den site is for. If they get nervous or they get scared, it offers them that shelter to go back to. Now this is going to be another example of a den site. We're looking at the space under these tree roots. This is another den from Voyageurs National Park. And this is such a good den site. We can see that this is another real life example. Now here in this picture, this is a slightly different angle of that space. There's actually 2 wolf pups here in this picture. Before I show off where they are at, I'm going to explain why it's so hard to see them. Usually with wolf pups, they want to be able to blend in with their surroundings. Because of that, they're not bright colors. They're not usually moving around a whole lot. So they want to be able to camouflage in that area. So because they want to camouflage, they have very dark fur. If you guys have pinpointed where the pups are already, you can see just how dark their fur is. That is to help them blend in with the dirt and the branches and the trees that are all around them. So now I'll show you where the pups are at. Inside each of the red circles, that is where a wolf pup is. So there are 2 wolf pups here in this photo. Now, for what the parents are looking for when it comes to the den site, they are looking for a safe location. They want to make sure those pups that are born into the group are staying safe and away from danger. They want to make sure that den site has a small entrance, mainly so that the parents can get in and take care of them, but not too big to where a bear or a mountain lion could sneak in and cause some trouble. And then a spot that is near water is a big advantage. With the mom, she usually stays in the den most of the first few weeks that the pups are born. So because of that, she spends a lot of time with them, but she still needs to make sure that she is drinking water and getting the resources she needs. So having a spot near water, she's able to step out, get a drink, and then come back to those pups without leaving them alone for too long. So now that we've looked at some den sites, we're going to start looking at the pups in these den sites. So we're going to look at the first year of a pup's life, starting from the time that they are very first born. Now, this first period we will look at is their newborn phase from 1 day old to 2 weeks old. Now, at this point, they're only about a pound in size. The mom is only pregnant with these babies for about 2 months. So they start out very small. As you can see, they're only about a pound. If you want to see how small they are by looking at the size, you can cup your hands together, just like this. So the space in between your hands can hold one wolf pup. Now they are born blind and deaf. Their eyes and their ears are closed when they're born. It takes a few weeks for those to open up. And they also have that dark fur that I mentioned earlier. They want to blend in with their surroundings. They're not going to be a bright orange or pink or purple because it would be way too easy for other animals to find them. Then, one more thing about them at this stage, they are drinking milk from their mom. So that would make them mammals. Now, mammals are animals with fur or hair, and they feed their babies through milk from the mom's body for the first period of their life. So wolves are mammals, people are mammals, other animals like dogs and cats, deer, even elephants are mammals too. So the next stage we'll look at is the time that they are about 2 to 3 weeks old. The pups have already grown quite a bit in this time. They've reached about 3.5 pounds. So the pup that we could hold with our hands cupped together, we might have to stretch our hands out a little bit, but we'd still be able to hold them with just our two hands because they're still pretty small at this stage. At this point, their eyes are starting to open up. They're able to look around and see new things. When their eyes open up, you'll be able to notice that their eyes are a bright blue color. And there's a video coming up that will show that even more clearly. So at this stage, another thing about them is that they are able to move around a little bit more and they're making more sounds. So they are starting to grow up a little bit. Wolf pups, they grow up very quickly, and we'll be able to see that even more as we look through this first year of their life. This is the point that their milk teeth start to grow in, so kind of like their baby teeth. With those baby teeth, they grow in very quickly and they are very sharp. So it would be painful for the mom to continue to nurse them as those baby teeth continue to grow. Because of that, they are able to start eating meat, but it is not the same meat as what the rest of the family, the rest of the adults would be eating. The meat that the pups eat is regurgitated meat. So that means their mom or their dad or their older siblings eat the meat and then throw it up for those pups. Their teeth aren't the full adult teeth just yet, so they need that softer meat in order to eat that. But that's where the rest of the family comes in. They're able to help these pups out. Now, here in this next video, this is a chance to see pups at this age. So they are right around 3 weeks old at this point. Again, a wonderful den example, providing them some shelter in this space. And if you look at the pup's eyes, you'll be able to tell they are very bright blue. That is the eye color that they start out with. It takes a few months for their eyes to change color to a yellow or a green or a brown, like we see in the adult wolves. Now, our next stage is between 3 and 12 weeks old. It is a big range in how old they are, so it's a big range in how much they weigh. They're between 5 and 20 pounds at this stage. So now, if we tried to hold them, we'd probably have to start holding them with our arms too, just to make sure they're not falling and slipping around. This is the age where they start leaving the den. They start exploring outside of that space, mainly because if there's 4 to 6 pups in that den, they're all between 5 and 20 pounds. They're going to start outgrowing that space. They're going to be a little too big for that den at that point. This is when their ears start to raise up. So they're looking a little more like the adults, ears standing tall instead of folded against their head. This is also when they start playing around a lot with each other, with the siblings that they were born with. Now, that play behavior can be really useful because it teaches them some skills that they might need later on in life. So for puppies playing around, they might do a lot of jumping and stalking and chasing and biting. That can be useful when they're just playing around with their siblings, but when they grow up and start hunting animals for food, those are also going to be useful tools to have. So this is starting to teach them some things for when they are all grown up. And at this point, they're still eating that regurgitated meat. So the meat that is thrown up by their parents or by their older siblings. Now, our next video here, this is going to have some pups at about 4 weeks old, exploring outside their den and making some of their first howls. So we're going to take a chance to listen to some of these here. And you can see they're still a little wobbly on their legs. They're still learning how to move around. But with that howling that they are doing, that is what we would call an instinctual behavior. They don't have to learn how to do it. They're born knowing how to do it. So essentially, as soon as they can start making noise, they are able to start howling. Now, the next stage is between 3 and 6 months old. Another big range in how much they weigh, as well as how old they are, between 25 and 60 pounds. So we probably have to use all of our arm reach to be able to hold pups at this age. This is when their eyes change color, so going from that blue to a yellow or a brown or a green. And this is also when they move to a rendezvous site. So this would be kind of like a meeting point or a rest stop for the family. This is where the pups will stay, usually during the summertime or going into fall. And then the rest of the family, mainly those adults, will move out from that site, try to get food, and then bring that food back to the pups at the rendezvous site. Usually the pups will stay with a babysitter at these sites, usually one of their older brothers and sisters, just to make sure they have some sort of supervision. But the rest of the adults will go out, find food, then come back. Now, towards the end of this stage, maybe towards the 6-month mark, they are able to go on hunts with the adults. Then their adult teeth start growing in as well at this stage. So that means they're able to eat solid meat, so the meat that the rest of their family is eating. Now, that could be animals such as deer, moose, beaver, rabbits. Here in Minnesota, those are the most common food sources for them. Now, in this video, it is pups about 3 months old. How much they that howling in the background is most likely their parents trying to call them back to that rendezvous site. But we're able to see just how much they've changed. Their ears are tall, their legs are long, their bodies will look more like the adults than they did with the pups that we've seen just even a couple months earlier. Now, our final stage of growing that we will look at is between 6 months and 1 year old. This is when they're reaching their full adult size, between 60 and 100 pounds. Now, at this point, they're able to actively hunt and travel with the adults. They are almost as big as the grown-ups. They are fast. They're able to move around with everybody else. So they're not tied down to a den site or a rendezvous site anymore. This is when they're starting to figure out their status in the pack. So their mom and their dad, the dominant male and female, they will keep that role as the leaders of the pack, but these pups will start to figure out if there are any that are more of those leadership figures, maybe closer in status to mom and dad, or if there are more submissive animals, maybe take the role of a lower ranking pack member. And then from this point through the rest of their life, they will continue to eat that solid meat. So hunting those animals for food and then filling up their bellies with all of that meat. So this is our last video of some wild wolves here in northern Minnesota. These pups are about 6 months old. As you can see, they look very close to the adults. But one way that we can tell if these are still some pups here is the behaviors they're showing off. So they're doing what we call scent rolling. Now scientists, the people that research and study wolves, they aren't quite sure why wolves do this. But there's a couple things that they think they could be doing. One of them is that they could have found an interesting smell that they want to take to the rest of their family. So they'll roll around in that and try to cover their body with that scent. Or it also could be just like how people put on cologne and perfume to make ourselves smell really good, the wolves could have found a smell that they really like and that they want to cover their body with and show it off. So there's some reasons why they might be doing this behavior, but it does show off a little more of their kind of pup behaviors, a little more of that immaturity. So now that we've wrapped up looking at the first year of life for these guys, that means that the snow is going to be melting off, spring is rolling back around, and our pups have reached 1 year old. So at their first birthday, they are considered fully grown. They've reached their adult size. But if you remember, spring is the time of year that pups are born. So now that this first cycle of pups has reached their first birthday, it's going to be time for a new set of pups. So we're going to go through all those same stages of growth yet again for a new cycle of pups born into the pack. And they are going to go through that entire first year and reach their own adult status by the end of that year too. So our last little section here talks about wolf pups here at the International Wolf Center. Of course, our pups go through the same stages of growing as wild pups, but they live in a very different place. Wild pups would live out with their family, maybe in the forest of Minnesota. Pups here at the International Wolf Center, they're raised around people and introduced to the wolves that live here. So we're going to go through some things about their growing. So for the wolves here at the International Wolf Center, I mentioned that we get them when they're around 2 to 3 weeks old. They come from other places like the Wolf Center. So it could be other facilities just like us. It could be other nature centers or research centers that these pups come from. Now we are trying to socialize them to getting used to being around people. So when we are caring for them for the first period of their life, we are cleaning them and feeding them just like their parents would, but we're also giving them that human contact, giving them that exposure to people so that by the time they are fully grown, they're totally comfortable being around us. One thing that helps us to do that is we will bring in nanny dogs here at the center to help raise our pups. Now, these next few videos, the pup in them is going to be Rika. So I mentioned today is her third birthday. So we'll be able to see some of her growing here in these videos too. But with these dogs, it serves a couple of purposes. It allows the pups to learn canine behavior from an adult canine, but it also gives them an animal to interact with that has a very close relationship with people. So it shows them that people are something they can be comfortable around and they see an animal that has that close bond. So it encourages them to form that bond of their own. Now, these dogs that we bring in, they're usually belonging to the wolf care staff. So the people that come to take care of the wolves will allow their dogs sometimes to help take care of the pups. Now, we also introduced the pups to the adult wolves that live here. So this is a video of Rika and Grayson. Now, these interactions first happen through the fence for the first couple of months that the pup is here, but it still allows them to interact with each other, to see and smell and hear each other. Even like Rika is about to show off right here, playing around with each other. She does that play bow to hopefully encourage Grayson to come closer and interact with her. So it gives them a chance to start building these bonds and these relationships. Then, when the pups are about 3 to 4 months old, they get introduced in the space that the adults live in. So it is a big day for these pups. It is the time that they're able to go out into the space, get all the new sights, new sounds, and new smells. They're able to interact with the adults without that fence in between them. And they're starting to learn their status in the pack. So they figure out what the dynamics are in the group. Who is the dominant animal? Who is going to be more of that caretaker figure for them? They're kind of learning what it means to be a wolf in a pack. So this is a very big occasion for the pups. They're getting all this new experience with these first interactions here. But at the end of the day, even our ambassador wolves, they grow up too. So this picture on the left is Rika when she was just a few days old. And this picture on the right is Rika all grown up. And now today, like I said, it is her third birthday. So a very full circle moment. And with all of that said, that is the end of my presentation for you guys. So now is going to be the time that we can start asking and answering some questions. So I'm going to pull the wolf cameras back up. It looks like Kaz is still in the same space. I'm going to move over to Rika to see if she is also in the same spot, but it does look like Grayson moved a little bit. So while I'm adjusting the cameras, we can go ahead and start answering any questions that you guys might have. All right, it looks like Rika has also moved. So what we will do is I will focus my camera back on Kaz over here to the left, and then we'll be able to start going through these questions that you guys have. But hopefully this gave you a good chance to start learning a few things about wolf pups. And the videos that I showed off are also pretty cool to watch as well, looking at wild wolf pups here in Minnesota too. All right. So I'm going to start with the Q&A section. If you guys want to start sending questions over there, I'll also check the chat as well to see what we're working with. So Wyatt asked, how many wolves in total are at the center? So we have 4 wolves here. The wolves that I introduced at the beginning of the program, those are the only ones that live here today. Rebecca asked, how many species of wolves are there? So scientists recognize 2 species. There's the gray wolf, which is the species we have here at the Wolf Center, but there's also the red wolf. So for the red wolf, they are an endangered species. There's less than 300 left alive today. Most of them are in zoos and nature centers across the United States as part of a breeding program, but there are about 20 to 25 left in the wild, and that wild population is in eastern North Carolina. Lee asked, did Rika like her nanny dog? The dogs that we bring in, they do end up building a close relationship with the wolves, but we never introduce the nanny dogs to the wolves out in this enclosure. They still get contact with them through the fence, but it would be a little dangerous to put them out in that same space. So it seems like Rika had a great relationship with her nanny dogs and does occasionally still get to see them and interact with them. Christopher asked, how do the wolf pups play? So it is a lot like you would see domestic dog pups or puppies play too. They're usually wrestling around, they might be biting each other, they might be chasing after each other. Those behaviors do continue through their adult life, like Kaz and Blackstone, they still play around a lot with each other, but it is very similar to what you might see with domestic dogs. Tristan asked, can I go through the cameras? There's only a couple here on the left side that actually show the space for the wolves, and I can pull up a couple others. So this one is another one that focuses on calves right here. This one doesn't zoom in or change angles or anything. This one here is another one that can change the angles, but this would be our other one that has a view of the wolf enclosure to where we might see the wolves, but it doesn't look like we've got any other views of the wolves on this camera either. So I'm going to switch back to the exhibit pack so we can watch Kaz. Nancy asked, do the baby wolves run? Do they drink water from lakes? And can Rika have pups? So I'll answer each of those questions. The first one, do baby wolves run? They absolutely do. The pups run and then the adults run as well. So it's a behavior that keeps going. Do they drink water from lakes? Yes. So the parents will be able to, once they're a little bit older, take them to those water sources, so lakes or ponds or streams, and allow them to drink there as well. And then can Rika have pups? She cannot. All of the wolves here at the Wolf Center, they are spayed or neutered, just like you would do with a dog at home. So because of that, they aren't able to have any pups. Wyatt asked, what year did the program begin? So for the wolves here at the International Wolf Center, we have had wolves as part of our ambassador program since 1989. You might have been asking as well about the red wolf breeding program. The red wolf breeding program started in the late 1970s, going into the 1980s. Keisha asked, how long can their fur get? So this is about as long as their fur would be, but depending on the season, it can either be thicker or thinner than this. Right now, the wolves are trying to shed out their winter fur, so they're losing some of that fur naturally just to make sure they don't get too hot in the summer. But the actual length of it, this is a pretty good example of how long it would be throughout the entire year. Um, that was also how many wolves do we have? So we've got those 4 here. Wyatt asked, what does a diet look like for a normal day? So the wolves here at the center, they get carcass feedings a couple times a week. They actually got their most recent one yesterday. That was some, I believe, beaver carcasses that they got. We usually feed them either white-tailed deer or beaver here at the center. Lee asked, have you ever gotten to hold a wolf pup? How did it feel? So I have not been here at a time that we have had wolf pups. I've only been here since August. And the most recent pups that we've had are Kaz and Blackstone. They came here at the end of April in 2022. Oh, speaking of Blackstone, there's the other wolf that we have. This is Kaz's brother. And he is the only one that we have not seen on the cameras just yet. So it's wonderful that he popped up. I'll focus on him for just a second so that we've got good views of him today. Kasia asked, what is your favorite type of wolf? That is a good question. So I really enjoy watching and learning about red wolves. We don't have them here at the center, but it's a species that I worked at before my time here. So they're a species that I definitely like learning about. And then are wolves your favorite animal? I'd say, yeah, wolves are definitely my favorite animal. Elephants are a close second. Lee asked, how did you come to work at the center? Do you have a passion for wolves? So I graduated with a degree in wildlife biology, and that is a 4-year degree that I went to college for. And then I'd say that I do have a passion for them. It's an animal that I really enjoy learning about and getting the chance to watch them interact with each other and some of the behaviors that they show off. So definitely a yes to that question too. All right, so it looks like for right now, that's all the questions that were in the Q&A. So I'll check the chat really quick to see if there were any questions that were sent over there as well. Looks like several people were saying hi, Rika, or happy birthday to her. So wonderful for that. Yeah, and Julia asked, why do the pup's eyes change color? That one I'm not entirely sure about. I know that several species of animal, the babies have a different eye color than the adults. I'm not sure if there's any advantage to it or if that's just how the babies are born. That's something that I might look into a little bit later on. And then also, how long do they live? So wolves here in this setting, like zoos or wolf centers, they live about 12 to 15 years normally. And then out in the wild, about 4 to 6 years is the average lifespan. That gets brought down a lot by pup mortality. Only about half of wolf pups make it to their first birthday. So the first year or two of their life can be very hard to make it through. Tristan asked, are we thinking about getting more wolves anytime soon? The answer is yes. So usually we get wolves every 4 years here at the center. So we are thinking the next time we will get new wolf pups is going to be next summer, so 2025. All right, and then back to the Q&A. Lee asked, why is a red wolf called a red wolf? Their color is a lot, I guess, redder in color. I might actually, for a second, be able to pull up a slide on a different presentation to show you what they look like. This will be here just for a quick second that I'll be able to show you. But here, the picture on the right, that is a red wolf. So you can see their coloration is a lot more kind of brownish red. That would help them live in their native range, which is the Southeast United States. That is the color that they evolved with. And then gray wolves, they can be a little more variable in color. And then, do you know where the term wolf originated? Also from Lee. That I don't know either. I'd probably have to look into that. But I know that there are some animals that are called wolves that are not actually wolves. They don't have the same ecological function. They don't live in the same groups. They don't, I guess, live the same life as a gray wolf or a red wolf. So the names can sometimes be misleading for different animals. All right, so for right now, it looks like that was all of the questions that I've gotten, either in the chat or in the Q&A. We can take maybe another minute or two to see if any more questions pop up. And while that's happening, we can continue to watch Kaz and Blackstone. It looks like Kaz is shaded very well here in the trees, getting out of some of that midday heat. And then Blackstone, for whatever reason, he came and laid right down in the sun. He could have maybe been a little cooler and wanted to get some of that warmth. So for right now, he is sleeping in the sun and he seems to be very content with that. Julia asked, which wolf is my favorite? I don't think I have just one favorite. I tell people that my favorite changes every single day. So I usually have a favorite for the day. Since today is Rika's birthday, she's definitely my favorite today. But I know that yesterday, my favorite was Blackstone. And I think the day before that, it switched over to Grayson. So it changes a lot. Christopher asked, where do the wolves go when there is bad weather? Oh, there's Grayson. Looks like somebody switched the camera for me. Where do the wolves go when there is bad weather? They do have some dens in the enclosure that they can go to. It offers some more shelter from bad weather conditions. And also the spaces back in the trees, they can be pretty sheltered and shaded. So that can be another spot they might go to as well. Lee asked, who names the wolves and how are the names chosen? So the wolf care staff, the people that take care of the wolves, they will come up with a few options that they like. I don't know how they come up with those options, but they have a few. And then they will put those names out to a public vote. So the public is able to vote on the names that they want the wolves to end up with. Whichever names get the most votes is the names that the wolves get. Excuse me. All right. So I'll say last call for questions, maybe another minute for that.
While you're doing those last call for questions, Connor, I'm going to go ahead and just remind everyone, I'm going to put a couple of links into the chat. One is to the up and coming programs on CILC's Community of Learning. Remember, today we are so greatly sponsored by the Walzer Foundation for this amazing program. You'll find next week's International Wolf Center program also up on the website. That one is also provided to us by the Walzer Foundation. So I'm going to put a link to that in there. Oh, look, they're all coming over together as a group. I'm going to put a link to all the amazing programs that the International Wolf Center has to offer on the CILC website. Book a program with them directly. I'm going to put a link to their website, wolf.org, for you to learn more. And then I'm also going to put a link to the American Society for Deaf Children. They have so kindly partnered with us to help us provide ASL interpreters like Robbie, who's with us today. So I'm going to put that all in there too. Did you see any more questions come in, Connor?
No, there have not been any more questions that have popped up, but there have been some comments saying that this was a wonderful time and thank you for allowing the chance to give some information about the wolves. So I think this is a great time while the wolves are shuffling, getting some new resting spots to end our program. But I want to thank you guys so much for giving me the chance to teach you guys about the wolves and give you a chance to see what our wolves are up to here at the International Wolf Center.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Connor. Thank you, Robbie, for being with us today. We learned a great deal, and I always love visiting the International Wolf Center for our programs. Thank you all very much. Thank you to the Walzer Foundation for making this program possible. Have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you at our next event. Thank you. Bye. Thank you, Robbie.